One of the basic things we learned in the primary schools, perhaps even in secondary school, that's the elementary sciences, is the cliche that cleanliness leads to godliness. Yes. But as we grew older, we also found out that beyond leading to godliness, it also leads to a good health. But the truth is, as children, efforts were made by our parents, our guardians, to make sure that we stay clean. As we grow older, we imbibe it. I don't know at what point in life we begin to lose it because we comfortably surround ourselves with refuse. We surround ourselves with ill health. That's the way I title it. Our hygiene, our health, is our focus today. It's important that we understand that a lot of what we suffer today by way of bad health could also be consequences of our activities as human beings on our environment including your home, your office, your workshop, wherever it is you find yourself. It will be our thrust for today, but I know that my people are in the house. One person is still on the way, but then the ones who are here, I'll let them come. Auntie London, you thought I would not mention it. How was your trip?
Fine, thank you.
We missed you.
Honestly,
And I'm not sure I know your name again. Did it change by anything?
No, it didn't change.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Maimuna Omi Abdullah, aka Coach Didi. And
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, my name is Deva Hamati, your mom, and it's good to be here.
I see the way you're all dressed up. Pink and black.
Yeah,
It's nice.
today I decided to do two-tone.
Okay, it's nice. It's nice. Okay, with the colors you're blending, I'm sure that a lot will come of it as we discuss in our program. But let's quickly take a pause here, go visit Nigerians in Abuja, get to find out what they think, what their experiences are with refuse management.
If you go around the Abuja metropolis, you find out that there are, places where they dump refuse incessantly, and it is really really absurd. It's not good for us as a nation, as a country, as a people. We have overgrown that age.
There are areas that are very clean. I can give Abuja that. And then there are some areas that are not very clean. And I think when it comes to sanitation, it should begin with everybody. Everybody should dispose their refuse properly.
Refuse management in Abuja is, I would say I'll give it 50-50 because there are sometimes in my area, they come and clear on time. Not every time, but they come and clear on time, and it's amazing. But there's some other places you go to and begin to wonder, is the people that are actually managing the waste managers, are they actually working? Because you go to a place, the place is so dirty, you see a mound of dirt gathering up, and yet nobody comes to clear it. That could be there for a week, and then all of a sudden you just come one day and then you see space. There's now nothing there.
Refuse management in Abuja, it's quite interesting. It's very organized and very consistent. That's one thing I've noticed. It's quite consistent. Although I would state that it's not everywhere, and there's still a lot of improvement that can be done when it comes to refuse management and keeping the streets cleaned. I think there's quite a lot more that can be done, but to be honest, because of the city that it is, Abuja, and being the capital and everything, refuse management is very consistent.
Refuge management in Abuja, to me, I will give them like 70% credit, because to some extent, some places that I've gone to and I discovered that they have tried a lot, because in some places you will feel as if it is not even a state you should be in, not even to talk of a city.
The city is so dirty, so dirty, because like you can see now, maybe when you go up a little, you find out that there's a lot of dirt is there. And I think what is really causing it in FCT is we are short of waste bin on the streets. Maybe we should have every junction or every street should have a waste bin whereby an individual, when they are through with their bins, they can just drop it there.
Okay, Coach Didi, what did you ask me?
I said this one a person house.
His person house, and he's in Abuja here. It's not video. What do they call it? Photoshop. It's real life. We recorded it and we put it on air. And with that, I'm wondering whether the 70% somebody gave qualifies. What do you think?
You see, the thing about Abuja is that when you go to the highbrow areas, Maitama, Ministers Hill, Asokoro, maybe to a certain extent, we'll say two places. There are certain places that are, really clean. Then you go to what I would call like maybe the middle class areas like Gwarimpa, Utako, such axis, and you notice that you cannot place those areas on the same level with places like Ministers Hill, Ministers Quarters, and so on and so forth. So it's according to the demography living in a particular area. That's what I've come to realize. By the same token, you cannot compare maybe Gwarimpa, Garki, Area 1, all these areas to places like Nyanya. You understand? So the higher up you go, the better the waste management services, at least as far as the eye can see. The streets are clean, the trees are, the streets are lined with trees, there's good shade and all of this very serene environment. Then the lower down you go, the rowdier it gets, the population is more dense, and so on and so forth. So it's very hard.
I'm finding that a little bit to digest, because at the end of the day, if there's an outbreak, everybody gets it.
Yeah. True.
Because I recall that when we had COVID-19, COVID-19 did not. I was looking at the daily reports. Much of the people we lost did not come from Gwarimpa. They did not come from Nyanya. They didn't come from Lugbe or Babulada. They came from the area you say are very clean. So is it that these people, they're already immune, so to speak?
I would say that COVID was not a function of
refuse.
It was not being spread.
No, I just used it as an example, because when sicknesses come, it doesn't follow the amount of rent you pay. It does not look at that. It just gets in the air.
It does, kind of. It does.
Really?
Yes. The higher brow the area, the less the chances of things like cholera, even diarrhea, malaria. So because if the area is very clean, there are no stagnant pools of water lying around. You don't have refuse packed into places that has pockets for mosquitoes to breed, and so on and so forth. So I get your point that the cleanliness or lack of it of an area is something that affects us all, but it affects us all in different ways. Because my relative that is staying in those parts of the town that are not hygienically, that the refuse is not being packed away and things like that. If that person falls ill, they're not able to go to hospital, it affects me, because I may need to support them to pay their hospital bill.
If it's a communicable disease.
If it's a communicable disease, we don't live in isolated pockets. We interact. Mm-hmm. That person can bring it into my own environment. Imagine, for instance, that maybe the lady that helps you out in the kitchen is coming from a cholera-infested environment. Maybe when you are in the kitchen with her, she does the right thing by washing her hands, but the minute you're not there, she just does whatever she wants to do.
Or your nanny.
Or your nanny. So we are all interlinked and intertwined. That is why even when things are happening outside the country, you need to be like, okay, this thing is happening here. What parts of it will affect my own country? Never mind something as basic as, hygiene, keeping the environment clean and such. So you cannot say because that person is in Yanya and I'm in Minister's Hill, the fact that that area is filthy doesn't concern me. It concerns you. It will impact you some way.
Okay, now I want to go to Coach Didi. That's her assessment. I'm still throwing back the 70% to you. Do you think it's real?
Honestly, coincidentally, this morning as I was coming out of the house to take a cab, I saw my refuse dump, and it was like half of what I saw was saying, is that somebody's house? It was like about half of that. And I remember I called, there's this guy that works for me, and I said, come. Because what we usually, and the so-called highbrow areas we're talking about in Abuja. And I called them. Usually when we wait 2-3 weeks and they don't come to pick up the refuge, I engage some people. They have this pickup. They go around Abuja. I engage them for about 13-15K. They come in the evening. They will pack it all and take it away. So I don't believe the highbrow areas are doing any better. Because I live in the so-called highbrow area, and I left a refuse dump that is as high as this.
Wow.
This morning, and I have to do something about it. I'm not trying to make a case for the management that is in charge of refuse, but sometimes we have to take it upon ourselves to take responsibility. I looked at that refuse dump. That's somebody's house. If they don't come to pick up your refuse, you leave it like that? Really?
And I noticed that in that particular case, I didn't see any dustbin.
No, there was a
No,
dustbin.
there was a dustbin. It's already
overwhelmed.
buried. Yes. It's been buried.
Just like mine has been overwhelmed. Mine is actually buried right now. Wow. I have baggage, these dustbin bags, about 4 or 5 beside it. So I have to do something about it.
No, I don't know. I know that we're expecting a lawyer who will be engaging us with the legal functions and our legal rights when it comes to this. But I also try to find out, beyond what my team members did, how regularly people come in to pick up. And they said people coming to the management coming to pick up refuse for as sometimes every once a week, sometimes every twice a week, but that they can actually take up to 2 weeks, before coming to pick up the refuse. And you're telling me that I, as a citizen, as much as I'm paying, I can actually also, make effort and remove it on my own. How does that work?
Well, I honestly don't know how they do. How does it work for me or for them?
No, generally.
I think for me, I honestly feel like I have a problem with dirt, honestly. I honestly have a problem with dirt. Personally, I have a problem with dirt, so I can't stand seeing it. And by nature, I'm a proactive person. I don't wait. They are supposed to do it, yes, I know, but they haven't done it. So I will not sit in the filth. So I make sure, I just asked, what can we do? And they told me, there are people that do this job. And I said, please, engage them. I don't know, what is it? Are we supposed to walk to AEPB and demand? Are we supposed to write letters? The honest truth, as Nigerians, let's be honest, I don't know about you. We're so used to our Nigerianness, we don't even ask them to do their jobs. If they don't do it, we look for an alternative. I don't know whether we're being complicit in this. But we just decide to go ahead and move on. Because honestly, stress day as a day like this, we are already stressed. I cannot add to the stress.
There is stress. But then let's look at some of the communicable diseases we can get, from refuse dump. I don't know. You have been much exposed with the BBC and worked with them for a long time. I want to believe that you'll be able to comment on this. But I know that when it comes to the refuse, the first thing I get scared of is the flies that come with it. The flies that come with it. And with that fly, with the fly, a whole lot can happen in your home. If one fly coming, and unfortunately, it fests on something, it can also grow maggots. Yes, it can grow maggots. You find your fish. Someone was telling me her experience. She kept a fish, and it was supposedly very dry. But because somebody had allowed the flies to come in, leaving the door net open, it pests on the fish. That fish began to grow maggots. And according to her, she did not notice because it wasn't smelling until when she was ready to use it. So when she told me about it, I said, I hope you didn't eat it because I'm sure I don't know how much you can wash out
And
maggots.
how can we not eat it now? You mean you not? See, we boil hot water, put the fish inside,
Fish
and
with
salt.
maggots?
Yeah,
yes,
with
and
salt.
salt. So what do you mean we'll not eat it?
The salt.
No, I cannot.
We eat it off. We wash it with hot
you
water
wash
and
it
salt.
off. You
People
remove.
will die now if they will not eat the fish because it has maggots.
You know, you remove that. If you're unlucky enough and you encounter that, you use
Yeah.
very hot water.
Very hot water
I
with
use
salt.
hot water with salt.
Yeah.
Then
Fish with maggots.
Yes.
No, what if
you don't eat the maggots.
You wash the maggot off
You wash all of that mess off
with salt.
as you are deboning it
Yeah.
and things like that.
No,
So-
but what if you forget or you didn't see all of it to wash out?
No, you will
Protein.
see.
And it's
No.
even protein.
you are not
Who maggot kill?
you are not
No,
serious.
seriously, who maggot
No.
kill?
No, and the thing is, usually it's not tiny ones that
It's
are
the
like
big fleshy
maybe
ones.
bits of salt that
Yeah.
they are sizable enough for anybody who is
see.
fairly well sighted to see. So you can wash it off. But the thing is, I already know how to pick fish that might not have that problem. Usually, if it passes the smell
Smell.
test, usually that helps. And then how dry it is also matters.
Okay.
You know, things like that. But I just want to use this opportunity to educate Nigerians that sometimes seeing those maggots is a bit of a relief. Sometimes, and let me explain why. There are some of these mummies out there that are using things like otapiapia, sniper, to preserve their dry fish, to prevent things like this, because it makes their stock less attractive. People don't want to buy it. They don't. So they go to these extremes. Now imagine, even if it doesn't have the potency to kill you because you've eaten it, imagine imbibing things like that over a long period of time. What is it doing to your
Like
system?
sniper.
Exactly. I have seen in the market, not here, but somewhere, this lady was dipping a paintbrush. I really pray that it wasn't already used for painting, into this concoction and rubbing it in the market in full view. It's not like
Most of them do it. It's a normal thing.
so. This without no nothing openly. And
see,
I asked her what is she. She says preservative. I said what kind of preservative? She says sniper.
Jesus Christ.
Diluted, as she diluted it with water.
You see why somebody asked me why I don't buy dry fish. I don't eat it. I don't buy it because I'm not sure of the process.
Because like
it
right
goes
now, I
through.
have specific vendors that I buy my smoked fish from. So that it's coming out of the oven, I'm grabbing a hold of it. So I'm not even worried about things like maggots and or tapia, sniper, whatever anymore. So I have specific vendors for my smoked fish.
Okay, now I want us to still go back to the diseases we can encounter, from bad refuse management. I know that you already mentioned cholera, as one of them. What are the other things we can, encounter?
Well, first of all, above everything else, mental distress. I don't know if I sound
correct.
shallow by
No,
saying
you're
that.
very correct.
If you're somebody who ordinarily appreciates a neat environment, like you're approaching your home, then the first thing that welcomes you
Is refuse.
is a pile of trash.
And smell.
And you're already stressed out. Maybe you're coming from work, you're stressed out, you're tense and everything. Then you come and you encounter that thing before you even enter the house. If it's me, that has already robbed me of whatever little piece I have left, and I'm already entering the house in a bad mood. So there's that. The stench, there's no
Sure.
running away from that.
Sure.
And of course the health hazard we've already mentioned. There's nothing about having piles of trash lying around that is uplifting.
Yeah.
It isn't. And the thing is, while some states in Nigeria can't get it right, including our own dear FCT, I recall the time I went to Calabar, Cross River State. That was when Donald Duke was governor.
It was a
I don't know what
beautiful
has
place.
happened since then.
It was
So
a beautiful place.
I'll speak about that time. When I came back to Abuja, I scolded all my friends that were from Cross River State. I said, you people have a gem like that and you have been keeping it a secret. To them it wasn't a big deal because they're already used
They're
to it.
used
But
to it.
for me, it was a novelty to go to the market and see women peeling oranges into, like they would have polythene bags that they were doing this
peeling
thing
on the
into.
floor.
And they finish, they wrap it up and put it in a bin. There were dustbins everywhere, small, large. I was so impressed, And I went by road, so I passed through a neighboring state that was really filthy.
Please don't call
And
me.
I will
Yeah,
not.
I would have-
What went through my mind was, what is the problem? Is it that this governor has never visited his neighbor? Because if it's me, I'll go cap in hand. I'll go and humble myself. I'll ask you, my brother, no vex. What is your secret? Please share with me. What did you do? Let me replicate it in my state.
Anyway, we have a new FCT minister, so
yeah, and it looks like he wants to work.
Yeah.
So let's see what
we're
happens.
looking forward to that. And now you're mentioning states. I know people are eager to write in, and perhaps we'll open the line early for you to share your refuse management experience in your state. Now, one of the people that the respondent in the package put in together by my winning team mentioned something that I liked. He said their environment is clean, and it's not just because of the activities of the government or activities of the agencies, but because of their own personal care. And I recall that at a point, there was a video you brought to us here.
Those
children who were actually cleaning out environments.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm concerned, those children did not just wake up to do it; they were inculcated to think that way. So, does that not leave a little bit of the blame on us, the parents?
Yes.
What are we doing? What measures are we doing? Because I actually watch some people. I'm an early morning person, and when I wake up, I like to walk around. So I watch a lot of activities. Some people send children who are too young to, put things in the garbage. They come in, they dump it on the floor. Some of the people are old enough, but they think that the garbage environment should be dirty. Yeah. So they come in, they do not put in the bin, they throw it on the floor.
I agree with you.
Do we have a responsibility to our children?
And upbringing plays a huge role. My mother is a retired nurse. So
honestly, your mother is a nurse.
So, and you see, the nurse of yesterday or not today nurse. So they are different.
Injection.
Seriously. So I grew up in a household where in my whole neighborhood, I lived like at an estate at that time, what we call an estate today. We were the only family that used to wash curtains. I swear. They were not used. Because I know families that since the day they put on their curtain, they have never washed it.
I'm not laughing at you because there's anything wrong with what you said. I'm laughing because so many people are guilty of this
they don't wash curtains.
You understand? You pass near somebody's curtains and you develop a cold immediately.
I'm telling you, all the dust for years. Don't talk about carpets. I'm not talking about rugs. I mean a carpet, like this place is carpeted. My mother will remove it. We'll remove the whole thing. We'll have this veranda and then we'll put Omo and wash the whole thing. We were the only family that did that. It may be some other families did curtains, but the carpet, we didn't know.
Some people will tell you that, how do you mop a rug? And I tell them it's very easy because I am very allergic, to a lot of things. And one of them is the foam. So the carpet has to be mopped quite regularly. You make a foam leather and sprinkle on it with a little bit of disinfectant. Use your mop brush and scrub until it's clean. And when you come into the place, you have a clean air in your room. Because when it's dusty, if you're asthmatic, you have an issue. If you have strong allergy issue, you have an issue. Sure. So it's important we imbibe that habit. I like that. Even the new curtains they're having now, not curtains now, drapes.
Yeah.
The window blinds.
Yeah.
Some people tell you that it's not washable.
Yeah.
But I tell them it's not true.
It's clean.
You need to clean it.
Blinds?
Yes,
blinds.
can
You
be
clean
those
them.
ones that you use.
Yes.
You clean them,
With
yes.
warm water and just maybe
And you're right,
rag
you
and
clean
just
them.
clean it.
Even the
Everything
wooden
needs
ones,
cleaning.
you
No,
run the rag.
those are the plastic ones.
Both
Like,
of them.
All
the
of
fiber
them.
one.
The
Anything.
fiber, the plastic.
It's not possible that you have something that you shouldn't clean at all.
You
It's not
clean it.
possible. It's
Why
supposed to
clean
be
the
clean.
frame?
Even it's just lightly. Even I
Okay.
just like you clean
You
it lightly.
use your warm towel with a little bit of hypo, bleach, and all those kind of thing, and soap, and run through them. They shine, and when air passes through, you find out that you have a cleaner air to breathe in, because it's important. When your house is dusty, it becomes a hibernating angle for infections. And of course, when they are there, you can also contract them. People are already writing in and sending their, this thing. But before I get to answer this, begin to answer questions coming in here or suggestions, I want us to look at the activities of scavengers. Have you experienced any?
I've seen them around.
I see them too.
see them
And I think quite a number of them have criminal tendencies.
They scare me, honestly.
It's not just the criminal tendency that I'm scared of. There are other things. When you, like, opposite where I live, there's a gas station. I make effort, like I said. I go in there in the morning to walk around because it has a large compound. So I sit there and I watch. Some people come out and throw in stuff on the refuse a pan, and these people coming scatter the whole thing on the ground.
Yeah, okay, they do.
So you find out that
In a
the
bid
dustbin
to
is
look
not
for
filled up.
valuables.
Yes, the dustbin is not filled up,
But
but
there's
there's a
trash on the
whole
ground.
lot of mess around the area. And I'm wondering, is someone not responsible? Because if I was such a garbage marshal or refuse marshal, it's easier for me to arrest such people and make them clean up.
You know, funny enough, I've never thought of it this way because I had always looked at them. I always feel, well, somehow they can't look really raz, but at the same time, I always felt, okay, alhamdulillah, there's an opportunity for them to make money. Because I realized because most of them are young boys who are actually going around picking up metals and plastics, and I hear that they have a depot they go and sell, and they actually make some money. So I never looked at the angle of them. Actually, they do scatter everything because when you put your dustbin in a trash bin, they actually tear it open on the floor and leave it messed
Yeah,
up.
I've never looked at it from that angle, but I also know that they're responsible for the manhole covers that are disappearing. And you know, today
Are they the ones
you
responsible?
Yeah,
yes,
most of them.
Okay.
you pass confidently somewhere. The following day you come, you are driving by, and then all of a sudden you feel this big, huge bump. Somebody has removed a manhole cover, and those things are very heavy. They're ordinarily very difficult to dismantle. So I don't know where they're removing them. What if they're turning them into something else? If they're selling
they
them?
sell them.
Question: Why are the security
Who is
cameras were
buying
supposed to
these
have?
things?
No, but where are the
And
security
why?
cameras
Because
were
it's
supposed to
supposed to
have?
be. It's
There,
supposed
some
to
years
be.
ago, there was a
It's got-
contract, multi-million naira contract for security cameras all over FCT. You
leave
see
that
them?
in.
Okay, so we're going to take a break, and when we return from that break, I know that the lawyer is on hand, and he'll do a lot of answering of questions, including why he came in late. So that's a
You
good
have to
question
call
he
him
has
out.
answered. So if the break is ready, let's quickly take it. And of course, when we return, we'll be taking your questions and your suggestions, and of course, your experiences from the States.
Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency.
Okay, so hygiene and our health. It's very important. And then, of course, when we talk about that, we also know that we need to fight for our rights, which is why the lawyer is seated with us to answer a few questions. Because if my health is being affected by the environmental activities of myself, my neighbors, and of course agencies, I need to know what I should do. Now, in Abuja, at least I know that one, that we all pay for the sanitation, refuse management, something, I don't know. If my refuse is not being disposed as it should be, Barrister Tazi,
Yes.
okay, I did not mention your name when you came. It's better you say your name by yourself.
Thank you. My name is Ike Utazi.
Okay.
I am a lawyer.
Okay. So, as a lawyer, what should I do if I feel the agency managing my refuse is not doing it well?
It's a double-edged one. By the provisions of Section 14(2)(b) of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it is provided that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government, and sanitation is part of the welfare. And now, curiously, you go to the fundamental rights provisions of the Constitution that gives you certain rights, the same Constitution says those provisions on fundamental rights shall not extend to those things government has promised to do for you in terms of security and welfare. You're entitled to good health, education, security. So the question now is, when government fails to do those things, you cannot now go and hold them responsible for not doing it. Now we come down to the issue of sanitation. You are expected to pay some levies for them to come and remove refuse from your premises. And you are now saying, if they fail to do so, what are your rights?
Exactly.
So can you now go to court to compel them to come and remove the refuse? The question is, yes, if you have paid for that service, you can now compel them. I have paid. This is my evidence of payment. That is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it, you can refuse to pay the next one if they don't come to clear the refuse. Then the unsaid one. Remember, hygiene is more or less personal. It's a personal thing. So if they don't come, do you leave yourself?
She packs her own when they don't come.
Yes, it is more intrapersonal. Hygiene is intrapersonal.
Now, if I decide not to be paying and I manage my refuse myself, would the government by any chance, or the agency by any chance sue me because I have told them I don't want your services, I don't like it, I don't like the way you're managing it, and I want to do it myself? Since you say it's personal, do they have a right to maybe litigate or sue me for whatever reason?
Remember, we have an agency called Abuja Environmental Protection Board. So they're not just protecting only you. So whatever you do in your neighborhood affects the next person. So you cannot effectively say you will not pay, because you don't keep those refuse in your stomach. You keep it in the neighborhood. So once you bring it out at your gate and say you want to manage it, the next person is affected. So that is why,
if I'm going to manage it, I won't put it on my gate. As I'm pulling that from the house, I'm disposing wherever I want to.
Where do you want to dispose it?
Yeah,
It's in a public place. So that is why there is a government agency that should manage it.
That's not very nice.
Bizarrely enough, I'm sorry, when he said section this, I now remember that there was a time I actually toyed with the idea of being a lawyer so that I would have an excuse to say things like section 20, subsection 21B, I really like that. Everybody likes it. But the point I'm trying to make is I haven't had an opportunity to really study the
Those
law
sections
that enacts APB, whatever. So I don't really know what their scope covers. But I noticed that they seem particularly keen on removing women from the streets, raiding nightclubs and things like this. When the one that we think is their most obvious function, people are screaming and crying and complaining that you guys are not doing this enough. But somehow they have enough personnel to enter nightclubs and carry women that are skimpily dressed and remove them from the streets and all this.
I didn't even know they do that.
Oh,
APB?
they do
No, they
that.
do.
And I've always wondered, APB, nightclub, I'm not making the link. Maybe I'm not intelligent enough, I don't know. But it all comes down to what their scope covers, I guess. But I really wish they would focus more on removing the filth and all of that. Do human beings fall into the category of filth if they are not properly dressed and they are hanging around in the streets at night? I don't know.
Dr. Barrister, you want to take that?
Yes. You see, I don't like talking at times because, like she said, you leave the real thing and start chasing shadows. Even in developed countries, there are places licensed for a particular purpose. If that place is a pub, is a club, and somebody goes in there, you don't have right to go there and disturb their place. They have their own rights too. So I wonder why they should leave the real thing. Even on the streets, where they go to make those enforcements, you can see the place littered with all manner of refuse, and you see people building shanties along the way. I think that should be the focus of the Environmental Protection Board, as the name implies. If you look at the enabling laws, you see the beautiful provisions in those laws, the National Environmental Standards and Regulatory Enforcement Agency Act, and the regulations made pursuant to that legislation. You will see they are beautiful on paper, but practically you see nothing. Nothing is happening. And another thing, why you see them going for those soft targets, you discover that we make beautiful laws. The enforcement is all about providing the wherewithal to be able to do their job. That is one. Two, the people doing the job, what is their capacity?
True.
You need to be better than the person you are policing or regulating.
Exactly.
So you now see the poor oppressing the poor. If you are passing on the road now, for instance, you see the VIOs, they don't stop big vehicles. The vehicle will look so intimidating that they will go for the passenger vehicles. So that is actually the problem. The people enforcing are not empowered to enforce the law.
But to be honest, can I say something about the VIO thingy? You see, sometimes I think it's not really their fault. You see this big man syndrome in Nigeria. You stop the person, and the next thing they pick up their call and they call the Oga at the top. They do that. I've seen that happen a few times. So I'm not saying it's an excuse, but because we do not enforce the law on big man, I think that's why they don't even stop them.
Sometimes, anyway, that's another topic for another debate. Let's see. Somebody is asking me here. Says, do I have a right to, litigate against my neighbor who is constantly making the environment dirty? Do I have a right? For instance, my neighbor could be messy to a point that it gets to me. Yeah. It does happen. And if I've talked and it's not working, can I?
Yeah, you can sue for nuisance.
Oh, wow.
You can sue for
environmental nuisance.
Yes, you can sue for nuisance and then prove that you are particularly affected by that nuisance. If it is public nuisance affecting everybody, you must show how you as a person are particularly affected. Like all this noise pollution everywhere. In the night you see noise, in the afternoon. Those things are pollution, but because we don't care and they have effects on our mental health.
There's also a situation where in a particular environment at a time everybody powers generator, and
UTC.
I'm not even talking about those public places. In your home at night, it's powered. All the fumes perhaps gets to a particular window. Yeah. I've witnessed people quarrel over that. And that one says, move your generator from here. Take it to your own side of the house. And the quarrel goes on. How do you settle such a problem?
Just like I said, this is a general problem. But if the individual can prove that this thing is affecting me more particularly than any other person. I know it happens in neighborhoods. Like in estates are more regulated. They'll say generators must be at the back of your
house
building.
Yeah.
But in other places, they can even come and put it closer to your own house so that it doesn't disturb they themselves.
In fact, let me tell a true story. My cousin was living in this small compound, and this elderly chap who was on the first floor brought his
generator.
He didn't have, he brought his gen, he put this cable and extended it all the way and came and placed his generator right next to her window near her own generator. So she had her gen and he had his own right next to hers. So whenever NEPA went off, both of us would be in hell because at the time I was staying with her.
Oh.
And one day I was like, please, just summon the courage to ask this man why he has to station his generator next to yours. She went and came back and said, what did he? She said that the man said that, well, he likes his peace and quiet.
Ah!
And I said, I'm going to pour sugar inside that man's generator. I was so pissed, but thank God, I'm a good person at heart. I'm a good person. I didn't do the sugar thing, but God knows that temptation was in my mind.
But salt would have been better.
Salt, right?
Yes.
No ideas to anybody around them. They could have not thought it would be spoiled now. But really, that was what he said. That he just wants.
But to be honest, her gen was also there, so.
No, her gen was near her house. Okay. His gen was near her house.
That's the
So
point.
that's what double the
there.
problem. If he's
His
one,
gen
he
should
can
be near
manage.
his house, not near hers.
Anyway, let's continue reading our message. Say good morning to conversation team. Nigeria has a bad waste management culture which defies proper waste management. I believe that with good and oftentimes directive community organizing in urban, residential and business areas to complement the government's public health efforts in keeping urban spaces clean, effective waste management, which includes timely disposal of refuse, can be achieved. That's John Aduko, and he says he's writing from Kaduna. Thank you, John. You know, he reminds me of something that I want to make reference to. In the villages, you know, even till today, because you were talking about highbrow areas and all of that, in the villages up till today, you notice that the compounds are often very clean. And it's not highbrow. It's a duty. People come out, even when there was no broom, they have a way of creating their own natural brooms. And they swept with it and gathered it. The ones that needed burning, they burned. The ones that needed decomposing, they kept for decomposing. What is wrong with us? We claim to get civilized when we get to the urban centers. And we forget that within our homes, we can actually share the bags into two. The organic and the inorganic, yes. You can make a white bag and a black bag. Decide what you want to do with it. So the ones that need decomposing, you find a way of decomposing it. So what's our problem?
I think it's not our culture really. That's one. Because
it's our culture, because in the villages, in the villages we do all these things in the local form. So if we have grown up.
Did they do that in the village?
Yes. They do that.
Okay. Really?
You grew up in the village like
maybe different parts of the country, because they don't do that in my village.
They don't do that in my village either.
Then, if we can adopt it in the cities, I don't know. That's why I said I don't know whether the laws are our problem or where the problem are laws. That time, the villages gather, they will clean up everywhere, just like the state. I remember on one occasion, they came to our premises to impose a fine that I didn't come. I actually went for an exam. After my school start, I went to write one employment exam. So I wasn't present. So they seized my parents and said, we're going to pay a fine. In fact, it was when my dad went there to tell them I went for an exam that the leader of the youth said, oh, they should have known. So you see, it's more organized. You don't just throw refuse, they clean it up, gather, separate, they burn the one they will burn. Now come to the cities. You know why people are complacent? There should be an agency responsible for that. They should provide the leadership. They should sensitize the people. But when you didn't do your own part, enforcement will be difficult. Yeah. You have to play your own part first. Do you know, I off record, they still tip these people to come and take this refuse.
It's a lie.
Okay. Well,
he said off record.
They will not come to
off record on top national TV.
They will not come to carry on. You call them, you tip them, they will not come and do your own thing for you.
But I was asking you how earlier, I said, do we actually pay?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
How?
People pay. Where I live, I pay.
In an estate, because it's only those in estates I know. Part of service charge, we pay for refuse collection, and it's not even APB that picks it. We have companies, waste management companies.
Yes, it's APB that engage them.
Okay.
So almost everybody pays.
We're currently living in an estate. We pay that. Where we were living before, we were paying to government, but this one, I think they sublet it to some private contractor.
I think we don't pay.
APB is not coming there because the infrastructure is incomplete.
I live in the city.
Okay.
How would you pay to?
The government straight.
Okay. Okay.
come.
I lived in Garki at some point. I lived in Wuse at some point. I came back to live in Garki again. Honestly, I can't remember paying for refuse.
That means
Many
the,
people
the,
don't
They-
pay.
they- they
And
have
then
not
once
served-
have
I've
they-
never
you
been
noticed
served. Yes,
of
I
getting
have never
that's
been
what I'm
served.
saying. That what I'm trying to say
They,
is
they're going
they
to serve you
didn't come.
notice.
They didn't come
And
to
they are
me.
watching. They're going to ask you.
I said that time. Oh.
And besides, I was trying to make this point that in the villages, I've discovered that the cleanliness thing there doesn't ever quite get down to the level of physical hygiene.
Yes.
They know how to keep the compound clean, take a bath, wash their clothes, but when you see how babies are managed, especially after they've gone to the bathroom, you find dogs licking plates, cats
Yeah.
jumping into food, and all this kind of thing. So in the village, their knowledge of hygiene and things like this seems very basic. They reduce it to keeping the compound clean, sweeping up the dead leaves, and that's essentially it. But
If I
when
may
it comes
add,
to what really
Devon,
is
if I may
critical,
add, you see, the twice I've heard you say about this village clean, I have been to some villages. Some of them are really dirty too.
yes,
In the village, not everybody is clean.
it's not all
So it's a
villages that
mindset.
are yes.
It's a
You know-
mindset.
you
It's
know,
not village, it's not
it-
city, it is the
Yes,
person.
that's why I say that at the intrapersonal level, they are lagging behind. But that community level, yes.
Okay.
You
At
know,
the intrapersonal level, you see babies, you can see, so
but one thing I also noticed, the concrete, jungle, so to speak, we are building in the cities is part of our problem. The basic thing, if I remember my grandmother, she had this backyard that had farm, farm that produced the immediate needs for soup, like the vegetables, the pepper, and all of those
leaves.
things. So when she was done with kitchen debris, she takes it to the backyard and pours it there. Those things,
Serves as compost.
thank you. So we have organic meals coming back. We build houses and we do I call it interlock.
We put
German
cement
floor.
everywhere.
No, we leave a little
Everything.
space for green
Most
area.
people don't leave space anymore. I'm telling you. So most people don't leave space anymore. So what those things that come from your kitchen that you would have been pouring on that platform to decompose and give you hygienic organic food, you lose it. You now pack them and throw it into the garbage. That's when the scavengers will come in to pick the plastics, and then they scatter your uneaten rice, uneaten beans that should have gone to the other side. In fact, then my grandmother would dig a little hole for food that are bad. She would dig a little hole around her cassava and pour it there and cover it so that way it doesn't get to give you bad smell. Yeah. I think there are things that we had, as a culture back in the day. We should be able to bring it to today. Perhaps make it better. If you're building a house, even if it's for rentage, there should be conscious effort to ensure that there's a bit of gardening around where you're building. And if it's on your own, the more the better. Make conscious effort to ensure that we go back there. The green things actually take on our the one we
Carbon
breathe out.
dioxide.
Carbon dioxide
And give us
and gives us
oxygen.
oxygen.
Yeah.
So we build it up and we complain about ozone layer depletion and all of that. Mind you, when you talk about recycling as well, the refuse we throw away can be used for recycling.
True.
I've heard about people using human feces, cow dung, to create gas. I don't know if you've heard
Oh
about
yeah.
it.
I've heard about that
I
methane
watched it,
gas.
yeah.
Yes.
Methane.
I don't know how that works, but I'm not sure I'll be in a hurry to watch that one. But I also know that
Yeah, well, they don't show you the waste, madam.
Yeah.
They just show you the process of. They don't show the muck.
But my emphasis is if we can go to this level, to bring in, to do a recycling of our waste, we can do a whole lot to keep our environment clean.
I think we started that because I see them pick up rubbish, bottles, plastics, and I hear that there's a company who actually engages them. They bring and they actually recycle them into buckets and basins. So yeah, and then I know of a lady. I think
The ones that are organic. The ones that are organic, what are they doing with it?
Organic, I don't know.
Organic waste.
So that's the one that is causing the smell.
Yeah.
I walked, for the purpose of this conversation, I actually made efforts. We walked around a certain street here in Abuja, and we wanted to find out, it's not too far from here. The first thing was almost every 100 or 50 meter, there was overflowing refuge. That's why we got one of those ones you know. And then we walked, at a point we got tired. We decided to go into a place to have a bit of something cold to drink. It was a mess. It was a mess. Because where we got into, people going there to drink. But all over there was algae. And then a little beyond the tables, we were to do a recording, but people wouldn't let us because I think they suspected we may use it wrongly. There was algae laden there. A little beyond the tables, there was a heap of refuse
Okay.
with flies.
Oh my God.
And people that come in there come mostly in the evenings.
And they will eat.
It's a joint. So they eat meat, they take drinks, and they are doing all of this on top of garbage. When you come in the evening, the algae we saw, you probably will think it's carpet grass, right? Okay.
And talking of which, I don't know who is in charge of Jabi Lake Mall, sorry. But you see, that water that place is near, if you people clean that mess that is growing on it, I don't even know what that plant is. If you clean it off and you can actually commercialize that space, you can give boat rides, people can come there and have their picnics, you'd make more money if that place was clean. Why are you not trying to maximize that place by keeping it very clean? Now remove all that crap that's growing on top of the water. Why?
Okay. Our time is almost not up, but I want to take a final word from the barrister.
Yes, I have been thinking aloud. At the Nigerian Bar Association Annual General Conference, which is ongoing at the National Stadium, I could recall Mr. President saying that the direction of the government is the greatest good for the greatest number. All this grammar we're speaking here, will it get to the greatest number?
We hope so.
It will not. Why? Because the people, the greatest number of Nigerians are detached from government. They don't believe you. As they are watching, they say, don't mind them. They are the ones that it is good for. So until we go down and they ensure that these messages, the people are always ready to follow us. But you have to behave it.
Okay.
Now, the greatest number of people in the FCT are living in the slums.
True.
So how do you ensure sanitation for somebody who is, I don't know, challenged all around?
Well, that's a question. We'll leave it hanging, and perhaps somebody will answer it. Just one word from you.
I would say take responsibility. So because the fact that you're going through challenges doesn't mean you shouldn't keep your environment clean. And I think that's why sensitization is key. There should be more sensitization.
Cleanliness, again, I'll say leads to godliness, and I'll leave you with that. I'll ask you a question, and perhaps you send your answer to the numbers on your screen. If you can go to your restroom, I'll use the local way of saying your toilet, and drink your tea, eat your food, then you are clean. If you're one of those, write and tell us. And if you can, do a picture of you, eating your food right in your toilet. I want to be sure that we are clean, because if your toilet can be clean for you to eat in, it means that the rest of the house is clean. Don't forget that the level of your cleanliness in the house also determines the level of your health, good health. Stay clean. Bye.